Aloha, this is me, MarkO, talking, and I welcome you to Dances with Dragons, a Green Heart Foundation podcast. In this podcast, you will hear about my real-life stories and adventures, together with the exciting current projects of our Green Heart Foundation. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to listen.
Take your hand and reach into this pile, this vat of turquoise. How many stones can you pull out in one handful? And I just thought, well, what is this, a game? You've got scoopers here. What do you need? He says, you have big hand, very big hand. Reach in. And I reached in and I just dug down, and I remember the feel of that to this day, how cool. My hand and upper part of my wrist and lower arm, deep saturated in these cool stones that were just all polished, ready to set into a jewelry piece. And I pulled up this handful, keeping my fingers spread apart just enough so that the stones wouldn't fall through. And I had myself a big stack of Persian turquoise. And he says, "Ooh, that's a lot." And then he opens up this beautiful cloth. He says, "Now put it there." And I put it down, and I'm looking at like 70, 80 stones, different sizes. And I'm going, Jesus, $700, $800, what he's going to say, I give to you for $500. Maybe they're all stuck on this $400 thing. Not quite $500 Mohammed wanted. It was $400 was a good deal. So maybe he's going to wipe me out. I wouldn't have money to pay for the bus out of here. And then I'm looking at all these stones, and he's starting to separate the colors, and he's starting to set it all up. So he's lined them up on this beautiful soft cloth. These can be beautiful rings, and these you can put into a bracelet as the centerpiece with two smaller ones. He's giving me all these ideas, showing me different jewelry designs from the family. And then I said, well, okay, Mohammed never told me about the value of what something's going to cost me until right when they have me kind of wet and hot and ready for whatever. Tell me a number, I'll buy it. Now Ali's doing the same thing. And I said, "Ali, how much is this one going to cost?" And I'm pointing to one. And he says, "I like your blue jeans." I said, "Oh, yeah, well, so do I." They're very special to me. Look at all the pockets, and I'm showing them all these little zipper things inside, and pockets and zip areas. And I like very much your blue jeans. And I said, "Oh, good. Well, okay. You want me to send you a pair when I get back home?" No. He says, "Today, we become brothers. You give me your blue jeans. I give you your stones." I said, "Which ones?" "Everything. You take everything you took with your hand. That's yours. You have touched them. Do you realize? We don't touch the stones. It's very important you don't touch the stone. That's why we have our scoopers. Because when you touch a stone, it should be yours. Your energy, your sweat, your. So he went into this exotic, you have touched, these are yours. And I thought, oh my God, am I being hooked? Am I being tricked, scammed? You want my blue jean overalls for everything here? And he says, absolutely. He says, no tricks, nothing. You start your business, and I will remember you always from your blue jeans. And I said, okay, let's go back to my hotel. I got one other pair of regular Levi 501 blue jeans in the hotel. He says, no need to go to your hotel. And he brings me this kaftan, this typical kind of Asian robe style that they wear that has a hood. And they look just like you could be Count Dracula or anyone with a hood in those days before hoodies got popular. We had more of a cape with the hood. And he had one of these that the family was also in different businesses and had some. And he says, here, give me your blue jeans right now. I give you this kaftan. And he's wrapping up and he's putting this beautiful array of stones into different pouches. I have treasured this experience, and I end up walking back to my hotel looking like a absolute Persian. I started realizing people really can't see me because I don't have blue jeans on. I had already started realizing my boots with the Vibram sole were too heavy and hot in that horribly hot climate. And I got some sandals, of course, cheap, beautiful leather. Everyone else wears them. And I'm now with my hood walking back to the hotel at evening time. And my bag full of bags of Persian turquoise, I've got a kaftan, and it cost me some overalls that probably cost me $12 back in the US when they were new, if that. And I was feeling like a king. And it was one of the most amazing feelings in my life, realizing that I had about 70 stones that I would be able to redesign and sell, 20, 25, $30 bracelets could be more. And I was realizing my blue jeans are going to make me a couple $1,000 from trading a pair of overall blue jeans. And all I can say is that was one of my last adventures in Iran, in Kerman. The next stop was Zahedan, and the road to Zahedan was no road. And here I am, literally full of pistachio nuts falling out. I mean, I would move getting on or off the bus and pistachios would fall on the floor. And the kids loved it. So I started I was like Pied Piper, I remember a couple times, that I would move, put my backpack on, and 6, 8, 10 pistachios would fall out of somewhere. And the kids would come clamoring and start picking them up. And of course, they'd keep them. They wouldn't give them back to me. And I'd just say, no, for you, enjoy. And so wherever I went, I had a trail of kids following me because I'm dropping pistachio nuts, feeling rich as hell. I'm in the Persian carpet business. I'm in the Persian turquoise business. And now I'm on my way to Afghanistan. I just realized I don't really have any reason to spend much time in Pakistan. And then I'm learning on the bus going out to Zahedan, this exotic middle of nowhere town. I've still never heard anyone mention the name Zahedan. Why would you go there? You'd have to go through the dangerous opium warlord occupied areas of southern Pakistan, which is a very Muslim country, as we know, very religious, very strict, and a code of ethics with their imam, their spiritual leaders. And the imam were the ones in charge of the opium poppy fields, growing it, processing it, and manufacturing the sticky paste called opium, which would then be manufactured into heroin and morphine and all of the other pain-relieving medicines. So leaving for Zahedan, I was riding high. I remember it took days on a road that wasn't a road. I still have valuable pictures I haven't looked at for decades that were taken with cameras that used to use what's called a Kodak roll of film. And you put film in the camera. And I have pictures of where I was ending up. I remember this particular bus that we were stuck on for days. It kept breaking down like every 3-4 miles. And they would climb under the bus. The driver always had these little bus boys that were literally boys attending to the bus and not the restaurant. And they would crawl underneath and get their arms in and pull parts out. And they kept cutting up part of a rubber tire, cutting it to make a gasket, to make a rubber stopper. they were improvising parts. Every time a part blew out or burned out or wore out, they would fix it, and it'd get us another 4, 5, 6 miles down the road, and then it'd break down. And by sunset, wherever they broke down was where you would spend the night. They would try and find a place that was like an inn that had some supplies for food, that was like a general store that had maybe 30 items in it total. But people would be able to sleep on actual floors. Some places had cots for those that had money, but I never got there in time. So I was always happy to sleep on my pad on the floor. But that's where you'd eat. They'd make a meal for 30, 40 people on the bus, and they'd be repairing the bus all night. And you'd get in the bus and you'd think, here we go. And 5 miles down the road, oh, we're stalled again. Okay. They didn't have to pull off because there was no traffic. There was no road. We were the road. And it was just this, like, it looked like a few tire tracks off into the sunset. Only it was the sunrise heading east. And that was my experience finally getting to Zahedan. And there were times during my travels that I now had destinations in mind, and I just simply didn't want to dilly-dally, leisurely take time and start exploring the sites of anywhere that I got to and anywhere I got a room. I was on a mission now, and the next mission was Afghanistan. And to get to Afghanistan, I had to leave Iran behind, said goodbye to Zahedan. It was very uneventful, except mystical as can be, and ended up on yet another bus that was going to be able to legally cross the border from Iran, southeast Iran, into southwest Pakistan. And the next stop was Quetta, and they called it Quetta. And Quetta was a nomad town ruled by opium warlords. The whole town had this feeling of heavy, dark, suspicious characters. More than ever, I missed my blue jean overalls because I had nowhere to zip up and hide my money. And I started realizing that I was able to barter. And that was what I did in Zahedan. Of course, that's where I got the moss agates. The Persian moss agates was my last stop in Iran. And I traded my boots and got this beautiful, beautiful supply of moss agates. And I still have hundreds of these original stones from those two countries, Iran and Afghanistan. Then I went to Sri Lanka after that, got a lot of beautiful stones. That's where I fell in love with moonstone. And all the while I'm looking for where am I going to settle in and have the jewelers, find the best jewelers in the world that I can find that are going to start designing my jewelry. And that was thanks to Ali giving me all these ideas about different jewelry designs and what stones to set, and showing me from catalogs he had, yet alone the family had a jewelry business, and they were making beautiful necklaces, and the Asian especially, love necklaces with lots of stones in them, and very exotic when they go fancy their wedding or have their own weddings. And so that's where, because I remember by the time I was in Afghanistan and I started bartering everything, they loved t-shirts. I was in heaven. I realized everything I have, my belts, I got some amazing Afghanistan lapis lazuli for 2 of my belts that I had. And the boots went, and I got learning that I can barter off my clothes. So by the time I was leaving Afghanistan, I'm fast forwarding because I was then on my way, because of two beautiful young men that I met in Afghanistan, and that was in Kabul. And I met Rohan. Wow. I met Rohan. Two boys were coming from Sri Lanka, going the opposite way out through the Silk Road, the magic buses they were on. They were happy to be on a magic bus with Westerners. But I learned about Sri Lanka, that they had precious stones and they had great jewelers there. And so that was becoming my destinations of basically, there was not a lot that I wanted. Of course, I wanted to live in India as far as the culture and the history and the art and the thousands of ethnic tribal people in India. But I just found these more exotic, off the beaten path places like Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. They were just starting to sound like magical words to me. And I was into the in search of the miraculous. I wanted miracles, and miracles happen in exotic sounding places. Shangri-La, where's that? Oh, I'll find that one day. Wait till you hear that story, folks. We're going to be seeking out the land of Shangri-La. And that was my ultimate quest, because again, we're on a quest for lands of the dragon. Lest not we forget that we're being told by our teacher, Don Carlos Castaneda, find 3 lands of the dragon. And I was yet to find my first land, which was Bhutan in the Himalayas. But first things first, I'm now in Quetta. I am around some of the darkest looking drug dealers, drug manufacturers. It went from the land of Persian carpets and Persian turquoise to the land of opium and poppies. And this was some dark energy. Everyone looked guilty, is what I feel. Everyone walked around. So I covered my head with my chuba. Chuba is the Tibetan word for it. Kaftan. They're called kaftan, I believe. And I started wearing my sandals and my kaftan. I didn't have blue jeans after the next few weeks of bartering. I didn't have belts. The only thing left, honestly, that I had was my underwear.
Thank you for listening to Dances with Dragons. I hope you all enjoyed my stories of the adventures of a modern-day Marco Polo. Join us next week to listen to more exciting real-life stories. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with others. To learn more about us, please visit our website at greenheartfoundation.org and follow our social media accounts. See you next week.